everyone, I'm Kamal Santamaria and welcome to a special edition of Counting the Cost here on Al Jazeera from the Dubai Airshow at Al Maktoum International Airport. It's the fourth time we've brought you Counting the Cost from this airshow. We started coming down here in 2009, and in that time we've really seen all the highs and lows of the airline industry. This year we'd have to chalk it up as a bit of a low. Order books are already full, so there hasn't been a lot of major plane orders at this air show. But then 2 years ago, 2013, there were record numbers of orders. $206 billion worth of new planes were ordered, led by, of course, the big three Gulf carriers, Emirates, Etihad and Qatar Airways. So with this year's show being a lot more low-key, we've taken a different approach. Yes, you'll hear from the big names, but you'll also see some different stuff. 3D printing, aerial acrobatics, would you believe, and the private jet market as well. So keep an eye out for all of those. Well, even though it was a bit quieter here at the airshow, let's start with some of the news that did make headlines, some of the orders that we saw, and we start with India's Jet Airways. Now, they made an $8 billion deal for some 75 Boeing 737 MAX aeroplanes. Emirates, a $16 million agreement with GE Aviation for what they call MRO, maintenance, repair and overhaul of engines for the 150 Boeing 777Xs it has ordered. And the UAE Air Force, interesting that it spent $1.27 billion on a deal with Sweden's Saab for 2 long-range surveillance aircraft. So it's pretty quiet, really. You can see behind me the A380s. There's been 3 of them here on display. You can forget about new orders for those. There hasn't been a new order for one of those in some 2 years. Well, the airline which has the biggest number of those planes, the A380s, I like to call them the behemoth of the skies because they really are enormous. Anyway, it's Emirates which has got the most of them. They've got 67 in the air already. Another 73 on order. That'll be a total of 140 A380 double-decker super jumbo jets. It's an extraordinary expansion. In fact, so much so that Emirates really needs to move out here to Al Maktoum International in Dubai because there's no room left to expand and accommodate all of these new planes back at Dubai International, its current base. That was something I put to the president of Emirates Airlines, Sir Tim Clark.
One thing is clear, that our business model has been so scalable over the last couple of decades that even our own planners have been caught short by what has happened in terms of the demand for our services. And the fact that we've ordered so many aircraft, so we're up to about 245 today, and that's going up to 280, means that we're having to rethink what we're going to look like in the next decade and where we're going to be located. So we could see this coming. Perhaps we couldn't see it coming at the pace it has come, but nevertheless, we're having to be a little bit more thrifty about the way we go about allocating the real estate resource in Dubai International Airport today. But it's exercising the brains of our planners to see how we can take it through for the next 10 years, given that the new airport probably won't be ready in its full scale until 2025.
We're obviously here at the new airport, Al Maktoum International. It feels a long way out, if I'm really honest with you. It takes a long time to get here from Dubai City. I know Dubai as a region will grow and grow over the years, but still, is this not too far out for you, the flagship airline, to be so far away from the city? Does that worry you at all?
Not in the slightest, because by the time we do move, Dubai will have moved. They created Dubai South. They're creating an enormous city around the field. And you're right, I came here in the mid-80s, and before that I came to Dubai in the mid-70s. I can see what happened then. I can see what happened post the mid-90s. And I can see that simple extrapolation over the next 10 or 15 years, so that what you're seeing today, it may seem to be far away, but in fact, it'll be pretty central to the whole of the Dubai's economic activity, so don't worry about that.
Okay, I want to move on to another topic, and that is subsidies. I know you've covered this ground a lot, but the reason I want to ask again is because it doesn't go away. The US airlines keep coming back at you. You went to Washington to plead the case. Akbar from Qatar Airways went as well, because it doesn't go away. What is going to happen with the subsidies issue? Do you think the US airlines are going to keep trying to chip away at you?
I can't speak for what the three airlines in the US would do. All I know is that Emirates has demonstrated to the multiple stakeholders that are interested in what's going on that we have been as clear and as transparent financially from the day we started, and we've been absolutely, we've evidenced in a very granular manner exactly how we go about our business, how we will go about our business, and how we have gone about our business. There's nothing more that we can really do. Now, if people want to continue throwing bricks at us, that's up to them. But we will continue to grow our business. We will continue to do the right thing by the markets that we serve and the people that want to go on our airlines, particularly into the United States. We've opened up, as you know, Orlando on the 1st of September. We've increased production into Boston. We increased production into Seattle. We now have 10 flights, 10 cities in the US, and we'd like to increase that. That is our entitlement under the Open Skies Agreement that the United States insisted that we signed in 1999. They made it absolutely clear that they would not sign an air services agreement with the United Arab Emirates unless it was an Open Skies Agreement. So naturally, we took advantage of that. And so what you see today is one Fifth Freedom operation from Alpena to New York, 10 cities being served, multiple 380 operations into many cities in the US, very successful. And we want to keep doing that. That was at their behest. Now, to change the goalposts and realign them at a very late stage in the game is going to be difficult for everybody.
You say you can't do anything if they're going to throw bricks at you, fair enough, but I would argue you've thrown some back, perhaps a little softer, but the social media campaign when you went to Washington was very aggressive and forthright. Emirates is not subsidised. You've got the Jennifer Aniston ad running now, which is clearly aimed at the US airlines. Is this something you've decided to do, to go more aggressive at them and fight back?
Well, I think we're just trying to make the point. We're trying to show that we are not what we're cast up to be. And that we're a quality brand providing quality products and serving US citizens and the general travelling public in a manner that perhaps others don't. I'm not going to comment on who they may be, but the fact of the matter is it's a value for money proposition, quality products, quality connectivity over the Dubai hub, reaching parts of the world that most of the US carriers don't fly to. And we've been down this path. So if you're talking about the Middle East, Africa, the Indian subcontinent, etc., they have no presence here. And more recently, Delta has decided to discontinue its Atlanta-Dubai service. So that makes the case even more that, you know, we should be going and serving the needs of the US customers.
Final thought from you, Sir Tim, and that's sort of bigger picture. Last time I spoke to you 2 years ago here at the air show, we had $100 oil prices, probably a bit above that. These days we're lurking around 50 odd, probably not going to get up from there, certainly in the near future. Tell me how that's changed the business. How has that affected the bottom line and changed the industry?
It has an immediate and clearly beneficial effect on our bottom line. But at the same time, the top line has come off. There's pressures on unit revenues, and we're not alone. You know, the European carriers have felt it, etc. So, but by and large, it's helped us in terms of our profitability, and how long that'll last, I'm not altogether sure. It could probably go on for another couple of years, and we will take advantage of that. But you'll see in the airline industry, profits are starting to come through, and it's primarily as a result of that. Long may it last. We've had a bad time over the last 5 or 6 years, as you said, $110. Been difficult to manage. So let's hope we can keep this going for as long as we can, and then we'll see what happens after that.
So Tim Clark there from Emirates, and of course one of Emirates' great rivals is Qatar Airways, based just an hour or so up the road, or by flight, in Doha, of course. Now, Qatar Airways is another major growth airline, and it did move to a new airport last year, Hamad International in Doha, and it made a huge difference. Finally, Qatar Airways could take delivery of its A380s, and it wasted no time bringing those online. It also took delivery of the world's first A350, that is Airbus's carbon composite plane. And here in Dubai, in fact, just over my shoulder, Qatar took delivery of its 24th and 25th Boeing 787 Dreamliners. We hopped on board Dreamliner number 25 for a chat with the CEO of Qatar Airways, Akbar Al-Bakr.
I'm always happy with giving my passengers state-of-the-art product to travel in. but at the same time, we keep in mind tailor-made aircraft for tailor-made routes. And this is exactly why we have gone through the three aircraft types that you just mentioned.
And it's clearly allowing you to expand as well. I'm talking route expansion here.
I would prefer to expand even faster, but my biggest problem is to get enough aircraft in the time frame that I'm looking for.
Just tell us briefly where you are going. I believe Australia and the United States are the big markets now.
Well, we have announced several destinations in United States and Australia, but we will also be growing in Europe. We'll increase frequencies. We will also grow in Africa. We still have room to grow in our region, and of course, my favorite region, the subcontinent.
So you can keep expanding, and that is because, if we're led to believe, you are all cashed up, you've got all this money because you're subsidized. Now, I know this keeps going on.
Well, I am surprised after all the statements I have made regarding subsidy that you are still dwelling on this issue. Frankly speaking, I am not subsidized. The government that is the owner of the airline put in equity, and now I have to run the airline with the equity that was put in and go to the capital markets to raise funds for all our expansion and all our purchases. This is very clear in our accounts. The people who are making noises about subsidy knows exactly, but they are using this word subsidy as a smokescreen, to hide their inefficiencies and bad management.
Well, the thing is, it's not just me who's still asking these questions and talking about it. The US airlines are still talking about it. It's not going away. You've gone to the United States. Tim Clark from Emirates has gone there as well to almost plead your case. This isn't going away.
No. I am sure that stable minds in the administration will prevail. The administration will realize that all this nonsense created by the three carriers led by Delta will prove that this was all a waste of time, waste of effort, waste of energy, and there is no absolute harm to any carriers in the US from the three Gulf carriers. They're talking about fifth and sixth freedom, whilst their JV partners are absolutely relying on fifth and sixth freedom. We have provided the American administration in our filing what we are talking about. This is only a proxy war being conducted by the three American carriers in favor of their JV partners, who have absolute immunity from operating the transatlantic route. And I don't think that really this whole thing will go on for much longer, because I'm sure the American administration have a lot more important things to handle than the complaint of Delta and United.
Okay, then we'll leave that there. I want to go back to the issue of expansion, because we've talked about fleet expansion, we've talked about route expansion. Expansion on the ground in Doha. Obviously, since the new airport, Hamad International, opened, that has allowed you to better serve your customers and to have more planes and to go to more places. Will there be further expansions there?
There is going to be another expansion on Hamad International, and with the products that we even provide inside the airport, we'll continuously raise the bar in air travel. Our competition will have to keep up with it. But what is very important is that we are really showcasing what my country, Qatar, is to provide to the traveling public. What we do really is the best, and you can see that in the first 8 months of opening Hamad International, we already received recognition as the best airport in the Middle East.
Something else we talked to Akbar Al-Bakr about was the private jet market, because this is a growing part of Middle East aviation. Of course, it is out of the reach of most of us, certainly 99% of us, as they would say. I'll tell you what, it was very interesting to get on board one of the planes, see how the other half lives, see how pleasant air travel can be, and the way it's changing the market here in the Middle East. Have a look at this.
With the amount of wealth in the Middle East, it's no surprise the private jet market is a growing one. there's a high proportion of the larger, medium and larger aircraft out here. Obviously you're talking about ultra-high net worth individuals to be able to operate those on a regular basis, whether it's as owners or regular charters. Certainly there are a number of clients who either through charter or their own aircraft are regularly flying to destinations such as Europe and indeed the States. But there's also I would say probably growing business market of people coming in with people from the subcontinent and the Far East and passing through.
But commercial airlines are in the game too. Qatar Airways has an offshoot, Qatar Executive, which caters to those for whom first class isn't quite enough. In fact, Qatar Airways doesn't have first class on a lot of its commercial planes. Perhaps such a niche market is better served by private jets.
Yes, there is a very big growth in the executive jet market in the Middle East. People have started now to feel the luxury that a corporate jet provides you, takes you anywhere you want to go at the time convenient to you, land at the airport that you want to land. So more and more people are using corporate jets.
So clearly you need to be a particular kind of wealthy to fly on one of these Gulfstream jets, but actually there's an element of cost effectiveness in play. If you were a large family travelling or a big corporate group, well, think about the price of all those first class tickets. Instead, you use a jet like this, it's your home, it's your office, it's your boardroom, it's your bedroom, it's everything.
The gap, the step between going from first on a charter service to a private aircraft is probably less of a step to take perhaps in this region than it would be elsewhere. Not necessarily financial, but perhaps culturally and so forth. I mean, you will still get a client who, for example, might take a 380 cabin at the sort of front end of first class with Emirates, for example, but then when he gets to London may fly on to where he wants to go in a private aircraft. But there are others who will just take the private aircraft in the first place. And it's very much about numbers as well. I mean, if you're flying a family of 5 or 6 and then you start looking at the prices in first class for 5, 6 or 7 or 8 people, then clearly that starts going up very quickly.
Two of the major manufacturers of private jets are Bombardier and Gulfstream. Until now, Qatar Executive has been exclusively Bombardier. But that all changed back in May with a firm order for 30 Gulfstream aircraft confirmed.
We need a fleet replacement because we keep our fleets always young and dispose them and replace them with new aircraft. Therefore, we decided that we will go for all one manufacturer fleet, which we chose Gulfstream. Keep in mind that Gulfstream really is the Rolls-Royce of corporate jet market.
So as I said earlier, it's been a sort of different Dubai Airshow this year, and one of the different things we saw inside the exhibition hall was one entire corner devoted to 3D printing. They called it the 3D Print Show. Everything that 3D printing has to offer the aviation sector, and believe me, it has a lot. We saw everything from air conditioning ducts for airplanes, the seat backs, which house the television on your airline seat, the back of the seat. Those are being 3D printed already. And it goes a lot further than that as well, a lot more impressive and a lot faster. Have a look. It's only when you see 3D printing with your own eyes, you truly appreciate what it is and the potential it has. Just think, you design or scan what you want on a computer, and the printer creates a 3D version of it. The limits, while not endless, have plenty of runway, which is something the aviation sector has realized and harnessed. This is the beginnings of a propeller.
Well, for now, it's definitely only a prototype, but as the technology develops, we will get stiffer and stiffer materials that we can actually print, so extrude, and actually use them more and more as real propellers. Maybe not at a passenger aircraft right now, but for prototypes and little drones, it definitely works.
Airbus's newest plane, the A350, has 1,000 parts manufactured through 3D printing. That's work that happens in-house rather than by a third party.
What we're seeing is companies adopt this technology for streamlining their manufacturing. We see companies that we're involved with, such as Airbus, ULA, they're reducing costs and manufacturing times by using 3D printed parts. ULA was able to combine assemblies into single parts to greatly reduce cost and time.
A lot of the focus at the air show was on this, a 3D printed drone, or UAV, unmanned aerial vehicle. It's a concept piece designed more to show what could happen with this sort of technology. But what's significant is the manufacturer, Stratasys, has managed to pack a jet engine inside it. It can fly at up to 240 kilometers per hour and doesn't break apart.
What we're showcasing here is the advancements in the materials that we're using, as well as the machines we're using. The technology today is capable of producing a highly customized UAV that's purpose-built and is capable of high speeds.
And the other key is that this technology is getting cheaper.
The technology is 20 years old, but it hasn't been used much because it was just too expensive. So single machines were up to $1 million to purchase, and then operating costs were very high.
So all told, 3D printing looks like a game changer. In fact, in many ways it already is. But there remains one major loophole.
Of course, file security is a big topic coming up. So who's going to be scanning that part and reproducing it? Who owns that file? Who owns the ideas? So our industry also has some obstacles in front of them, because we need to make sure those files are really secured. If you produce one part, that you can only produce one part. Where it's a little bit like 15, 18 years ago with the music industry. All of a sudden you could get music everywhere. Just imagine you can find those pieces, those parts all of a sudden all over the internet. That's not going to work. So we need file security combined here. So this is a big, big thing for us.
And finally, from here in Dubai, something different, something we've not looked at before, aerial acrobatics. Now, it's a feature of, in fact, any air show. Everyone pauses in the afternoon as fighter jets, passenger planes, helicopters, biplanes, they head up into the sky to perform aerial acrobatics. We all stand and watch, mesmerized, frankly, because it is so impressive. Now, a team we saw this year was the Breitling Wing Walkers. They bill themselves as the world's only formation wing walkers. What that means is essentially standing on the wings of a vintage Boeing biplane and performing almost gymnastics up in the air, 2 planes at a time. It was quite extraordinary. We met 2 sisters and their pilot to find out more about it. This is Martin. He flies planes, vintage biplanes, has done for 30 years. Stella stands on top of planes and performs what amounts to aerial gymnastics. She's done it for 6 years and is a warehouse manager during the week. And Emily, her older sister, does it too. She's the relative newbie who's wing walked for the last 2 years. This is their job. They travel, perform again. But how much of a job is it when you truly love what you're doing? I'll let them explain.
As soon as I saw any pictures of it, I thought that has to be the job that I do. It's my dream job. It looks amazing, don't you think?
So when they were recruiting last year for a new wing walker, I thought, well, why not? Give up the day job. Life's too short to sit in an office all day.
When I was 9 years old, I always had an interest in flying, and unfortunately my parents couldn't really at the time afford for me to have flying lessons, so I thought, well, I'm going to have to find a different way. And I was very lucky because the local airfield in Clacton-on-Sea back home gave me the chance to work with them. So, for that, they gave me some flying lessons, and that's what really got my interest going.
Well, I had a career before this as an environmental consultant, so I can always go back to that after I've done this for a few years. So I've got other qualifications to fall back on.
I am very lucky, and sometimes you have to sort of take a step back and realise what you're actually doing, and like being here in Dubai is fantastic, and I never would have thought, many years ago that I would be travelling effectively the world and performing with a vintage biplane from the 1940s. It's just absolutely, you couldn't have planned it.
Doing this at the weekends, it gives me that drive to go and do the job during the week. I can go and, have a normal life and feel very sort of secure, and then I can come and do this and just get my kicks, really.
Okay, so if you'd like to follow me up.
And then it was time for me to get mine. I was suited up, strapped to the top of the plane, and sent on my way. It's hard to describe what it was like up there. Exhilarating, of course, but oddly calming, soothing, even when Martin took me through an unexpected barrel roll. But sitting up there, it was easy to see how this job wouldn't leave you bored or watching the clock. Yes, one of the most exhilarating yet strangely serene moments of my life, and a great way to end our week here at the Dubai Airshow. Well, as you can hear, the jets are firing up again, so it's time for us to go. If you want to see more though, head to aljazeera.com/CTC, and also do get in touch with me on Twitter at KamalAJE, or you can email us. countingthecost@aljazeera.net is the address. I'm Kamal Santamaria from the whole team here in Dubai. Thanks for joining us. The news on Al Jazeera is next.